10 minutes before the hour, we're with Sherrill Freeborough from Hyundai of Lansing. I like that trunk or treat event that you're having.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, I'm having, I don't really understand what's wrong with me because I can't scare anybody. I like the Halloween season, and I have made 2 or more attempts to really frighten someone. Patrick Lepp and his mother, Renee Farhat, were over this weekend for dinner on Sunday, spaghetti dinner. And I put on this very spooky hood with like a black, you can't see my face, you know, and a black sweatshirt. And so he came into the house, and I walked out down the hall like this with the spooky mask, and he just looked up and said, "That's Michael Patrick Shields."
Oh.
And I said, "How do you know that?" He wasn't the least bit scared, and the house is all decorated for Halloween.
How old is he?
He's 8.
Okay, well, yeah, you got to do something scarier.
Really?
To an 8-year-old. I scared a little boy in the showroom yesterday.
Did you?
I'll bring it in tomorrow and scare you.
Is it
I've
a
got
mask?
Special. No, it's a little skeleton that dances.
Oh.
And and I asked his mom, and she said it would be fine, but he got pretty scared. So
He
I
did
felt
not
bad.
like, there's a skeleton in the wine cellar, and the wine cellar downstairs has a glass door, and you turn the light on, there's a skeleton sitting, and he didn't like that.
Yeah. See?
But it wasn't me, it was the skeleton that scared him.
Yeah.
And last night, Dr. Christine was working late in her dental office on Okemos Road over there, so I stopped at Meyer, and I got this really frightening skull mask with a hood and everything, and I went and banged on the window that she could see from her office through the operatories.
She didn't get scared, huh?
Wouldn't you be frightened to death?
You could scare me, yeah.
She just kind of walked and looked at the window and flipped on the lights, and the look was more of, what the heck? So I didn't scare anybody.
I don't know what to tell you.
Trunk or treat. We'll hear more
Yes.
about that as we get closer. Thank you very much. Mark Brewer is sitting next to you,
Yes, I
the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. We just talked to Pat Miles a little while ago. You were telling me that he can actually win. A Democrat can win that seat. Why?
Oh, he's a terrific candidate. You heard from him this morning. He has great bipartisan appeal. There are a lot of Republicans in that district who are openly supporting him because his opponent is just too extreme. That's a district that's always, well, it's usually elected Republicans, though not always. They've always been moderate Republicans. And his opponent doesn't fit that type of Republican that's been elected there. So I think Pat has a chance.
He's also saying that Justin Amash is not showing up for debates. I mean, that's a common trend with Republicans now, I guess, huh?
Well, look, if you don't want to have that side-by-side comparison, that's what you do. You duck the debates and avoid giving the voters the opportunity to evaluate people side by side.
Well, they're going to get their chance at Davenport tomorrow night, I guess. So what about Verge Bernard? We're going to talk to him later. He says that Rick Snyder's plan to eliminate the Michigan business tax is, quote, insane, end quote. That's a strong word.
Well, I think it's based upon analysis of it, and Verge has been saying this for some time, that for many small businesses in the state, the way Rick Snyder would restructure our business taxes would actually result in an increase on many small businesses here. So I
Wow.
think that's
You're
part of
sitting
the
next to a
criticism.
small business person
Yeah,
right here.
I've heard the same thing, that it would increase our taxes.
Thanks a lot, right?
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I don't know,
We understand now that this business about Justice Young being a Wisconsin resident has been debunked.
Oh, the Republicans continue to try to debunk it. As I've said all along, Michael Patrick, we're content to let the voters of the state decide whether he's been a Wisconsin resident or not, and whether he's been sleeping on the bench. We'll let the voters decide all that at this point. We're 2 weeks out. Let the voters decide.
Most people don't go to the polls to vote for Supreme Court justices, though, right?
There is a real drop-off in participation down at that point of the ballot. Sometimes as many as a third or 40% of the voters don't get down to the judicial nonpartisan section of the ballot.
So what should we be thinking? Now, I understand you're in a partisan role, but if you don't know anything about the Supreme Court justices, should you skip that part?
No, absolutely not. We encourage everybody to vote in that section. There are sources of information. I mean, obviously the candidates and the parties have an obligation to get information out, but voters themselves can seek out information about these candidates. They've all got websites. You can go to the political party websites and get information there, or jump to the candidates' websites. So there are sources of information out there. These judicial races are really important because judges make very, very important decisions. Legislature passes laws. Supreme Court can say it's unconstitutional or give it a very different interpretation from what most people would expect. Very important offices. People need to vote.
MERS News has posed the question, would the Democrats be better off if they had gone ahead and given John Cherry the nomination in the first place? What do you say?
I'm not going to speculate. John Cherry dropped out of the race last winter, and we moved on. I think he'd been a great candidate for governor. Don't get me wrong. I've been very proud to be campaigning with John Cherry right now. But that's just idle speculation. I mean, we can talk about what if Pete Hoekstra were the Republican candidate for governor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've got 2 candidates, and that's going to be the voters' choice in a couple weeks.
Some people have reminded voters that John Engler was 20 points down with 2 weeks to go in the campaign, and they say that if John Engler could do it, Verge Bernero could do it. Could he, and how?
He could. And again, at this point in the cycle, 2 weeks out, it's all about who's going to vote. And that can make an enormous difference in terms of races up and down the ticket. And that's exactly what happened in 1990. The supporters of Jim Blanchard, according to the polls, didn't turn out and vote, and John Engler became governor. We've seen that across the board. It's happened to both Democrats and Republicans.
97% of people in Michigan, as I understand, are registered voters.
I think that's a little high. We do have a very high registration rate, but I think that's a little high.
Yeah, I heard it was 100,000 people were registered. 100,000 people more were registered. I
For
heard
this
that
election.
This morning for this election.
Yeah, but how many will turn out for a
Yes,
midterm
that's
election?
the question.
It's a good question, isn't it?
Right. I'm expecting about 4 million. That's what our plans are based on.
All right. Mark Brewer, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. Sherrill Freeborough, a small business person. She owns Hyundai of Lansing and Freeborough Automotive. Thank you both for being here this morning. And happy early Halloween.